Living the Artist's Way by Julia Cameron. Week 3, Inviting Calm. This week will help you to experience the calm of guidance. Guidance brings a sense of serenity and an assurance that we're on the right path. Using the tools of this week, you'll be asked to invite the calm of guidance, and in that calm, examine further self-care in the form of both making connections and setting limits. As the sages say, slow equals no. As you dispense with hurried and harried decision-making, you will find that the pause you experience will forge a deeper connection to a benevolent universe. Guided to patience. The day was overcast. Walking Lily, we spotted 3 lizards. One was fatter and slower than the others, and she almost caught it, a delicious mouthful. Tugging at her leash, she darted in pursuit. No luck. The lizard scooted under a rock. Hope stashed. Lily reluctantly resumed our walk. She was alert for further lizards, and 2 more dashed across our path. Lily lunged after them, but they were quick, even quicker than a hungry terrier. This way, girl, I tugged on Lily's leash. Obedient but frustrated, she eddied by my side. Lizards, after all, are a delicacy. Our courtyard is an oasis of smooth stones. Lizards bask there in the sunlight, bold and visible. Lily knows their habits and hunts them down as we cross to the courtyard gate. One day she'll catch one. All she needs is patience, but patience is not a terrier's long suit, nor is it mine. I frequently chide myself. Patience, Julia, but it is a virtue hard to come by. In the winter, I wait impatiently for spring. In a cool spring, I yearn for summer. Waiting to hear word from Andrew, I am impatient. Can we hurry? When I argue with God, and I do, it is most often over timing. I've been waiting 6 months to hear a good word about my plays, and while my guidance swears to me I'll hear soon, that soon is not soon enough. The seasons move at a temperate pace, and theaters match them. Just as I write this, my phone shrills. It's a director calling me to say that she has finally heard back from the head of a theater. The news, our play, in submission for a Zoom production, has not been read yet. It'll get read soon, we are promised. That word again. And in the meanwhile, patience. As I write this, we're in month 4 of lockdown for the coronavirus. It's July, the end of July, and we have been on lockdown since mid-March. Masks are required. Social distancing is required. Only the most essential forays out of our house are allowed. When will it end? Will it soon or ever go back to normal? To survive these times, a virtue is required. Yes, patience. Patience is what Job needed. Patience is what all of us require now. It takes patience not to inquire. When God? Meaning, please God, now. We are, all of us, globally being tutored in patience. As we don our masks, scrub our already clean hands, make our brief essential trips into the world, we're learning to be patient. Waiting in line for entrance to a grocery or pharmacy, we are being taught, yes, patience. I am by nature impatient. Weekends loom long for me. I can't wait for Monday, for the world to be back at work. Surely Monday I'll hear from Andrew. I've spent the weekend writing him imaginary emails demanding, so, what do you think? But protocol requires that I wait for him to contact my literary agent, who will then contact me with the hopefully good news of his approval and offer. My guidance has told me that his offer will be modest but very welcome. I am ready to accept a modest offer, any offer, if only word of it will come. On Sunday afternoon, officially a day of rest, I emailed my agent who was spending quality time with her family. I wrote, "Can you think of anything that we can do to shake the tree?" As I expected, I did not hear back from her. One more time I was being asked for patience. And in any case, I knew what she would say. Waiting is hard. Patience. Elizabeth Gilbert says, "We don't realize that somewhere within us all, there does exist a supreme self who is eternally at peace." Rainer Maria Rilke says, "I want to beg you to be patient toward all that is unsolved in your heart. Live the questions now." Chided, I took to the page, hoping guidance would have wisdom to share. I asked, "How can I find patience?" I heard, "Call Emma, she's good at patience. She worked 6 years on her musical. You can wait 6 days more on Andrew." The guidance at first made me furious, but then it drew things to scale. Chastened, I realized I could wait, if not patiently, impatiently. But wait I would, because however difficult, I could. The night sky was both silver and gold. The setting sun gilded the mountaintops. I was settled in to write when my phone rang. The caller was my friend Jennifer Bassey, who wanted to give me a talking to about patience. "So, you haven't heard from Andrew?" she asked. "No," I said, sounding miserable. "He's going to like the book," she promised. "If he doesn't, I'll jump off my balcony. Actually, I won't, but you get my drift." "And my air conditioning crew didn't show up," I wailed. "Not at all?" "Not at all." "Well, they must have had a crisis. That happens with workmen. They say they're coming tomorrow at 8:30 a.m. So you just need patience. Patience with Andrew, patience with your crew. I know how it is with you, as with me. We want what we want when we want it, and that's now. Try to accept that they are in God's timeline, not yours. Take a deep breath, relax. Everything will happen when it's supposed to happen." Amit Ray says, "Have love for your inner self, and everything else is done for you." Jennifer, I try to have patience. Did I sound as impatient as I felt? I hate being lectured to, no matter how well-meaning. But Jennifer had more to say. "Call 2 people and ask them about them," she gravely advised me. "I know that works," I responded, thinking, please no more lectures on patience. I don't have the patience. Jennifer may have sensed my unspoken resistance because she abruptly got off the phone. Against my better judgment, I decided to take her advice, phoning my friend Juliana, fellow writer. "Hello, sweetheart," Juliana gaily caroled. "What did you hear from London?" "Radio silence, nothing yet. Rats, I've been praying and praying." Juliana sounded as impatient as I felt. She exclaimed, "I loved the book." Mentally, I added her name to my list of loved its. If I valued Andrew's opinion and couldn't wait to hear it, I treasured Juliana's verdict. I felt my cup tipping, half full, not half empty. Juliana's opinion held as much weight with me as Andrew's. I had a reprieve from anxiety. If she thought the book was good, perhaps it was good. Gratefully, I got off the phone. Moments later, following Jennifer's advice, I phoned Jacob Nordby. "How are you?" I remembered to ask him before launching into my tale of woe. "I just took a walk by the river and it was lovely," Jacob responded. "Now I'm home and settling in for the night. Have you had any word from Andrew, your publisher?" "Radio silence," I reported. "It's been nearly 2 weeks. As every day ticks past, I fall further into paranoia." "What does your guidance say?" Jacob asked. He believed in the accuracy of my guidance as surely as he believed in the accuracy of his own. "Guidance tells me my worries about Andrew are pointless," I answered. I could quote the optimism of guidance even if I couldn't believe it. "He'll like the book," Jacob predicted cheerfully. "It's a good book. I loved it." Now, after both Juliana and Jacob weighed in, I found myself less anxious. Could all my readers be wrong? I doubted it. Andrew had only to do it alone with the consensus, but would he? He was very much his own man. The evening sky darkened into night. The silvery moon rose above the mountains. Buoyed by the support of my friends, I dressed for bed. I'd endure one more day of waiting. Perhaps tomorrow I would hear from Andrew. Until then, I needed to keep the faith. I woke up early, preparing to meet my air conditioner crew. Installation had dragged on 5 days, and I was impatient that the work would be done and over with. They arrived on schedule, early for a work day, and I perched on my love seat out of their way. I was tired after my short night's sleep, and so I drank 3 full mugs of coffee, fighting to wake up. My morning pages took a long time. My fatigue slowed my pen. Excuse me. I was on page 3, the finale, when my phone rang. It was Emma Lively, brimming with news. "You've heard from Andrew?" she blurted. "He wants to publish the book. Susan Rayhofer emailed me his email in case I talked to you before she did. Shall I read you what he wrote?" "Yes, please, I'm dying to hear." Emma took a swig of water and cleared her throat. She read, "I have been reading and found myself riveted. It's not a natural book for me. I am both a Jew and an atheist, and I think those categories are not your target audience. Despite those facts, I'm finding the book appealing, touching, and personally relevant. That surprised me. I thought I would read the book, discover the audience, and understand the purpose the book served, but it goes beyond that. It speaks to me personally. That's the power of your writing, so we will definitely be making an offer." "Oh, Emma, that's wonderful," I exclaimed. "Read it to me again." And so Emma read me Andrew's notes a second time. I found myself marveling at his open-mindedness. I am both a Jew and an atheist. That he, a non-believer, could embrace my believer's book struck me as near miraculous. What did he mean the book was personally relevant? Perhaps he would tell me when next we talked. He was, after all, the publisher of The Artist's Way, subtitled A Spiritual Path to Higher Creativity. Did he believe in the power of a higher power, a creative energy that he chose not to call God? He was, I knew, an avid gardener. To me, nature spoke of God, while perhaps to him it spoke of creative energy, no deity needed. Getting off the phone from a jubilant Emma, I phoned an equally jubilant Susan Rayhofer. As my agent, she, like me, had waited for Andrew's response. Now, like me, she was exuberant. She bottom-lined the response. "He's going to make an offer. He put it in writing." Now it was my turn to put something in writing. I emailed Andrew. "I don't think you can know how much I count on your opinion. You are a muse and an ally." Sending my note across the Atlantic, I felt a sense of elation. I wanted him to know how much I valued him. T.H. White says, "I can't help hoping and keeping faith and loving beauty." A.A. Milne says, "For the river knew not where it was going, and it said to itself, 'There's no hurry, we shall get there someday.'" The day sped fast. I phoned my friend Juliana to tell her the good news. She was thrilled for me. I phoned Nick and Jacob and Scotty and Laura and Jeanette and Jennifer. One and all, they were excited for me. I was excited myself, so excited I almost didn't care when Cody, the foreman of the crew, told me they were having difficulties with the system. A special technician would need to be called in. He couldn't come today. He would come tomorrow. "Yes," Cody said, he will troubleshoot the system. A solution will be found. All I needed would be that dreaded word, patience. I heard him out and took him at his word. A solution will be found. In the meantime, I counted my blessings. A delay in the air conditioning was just that, a delay. By far of more importance was the delay that had ended. Andrew loved the book. Write for guidance. Choose an area in your life where you're struggling to have patience. Write out the following questions and listen for your guidance. Number 1, what do I need to know? Number 2, what do I need to do? Number 3, what do I need to grieve? Number 4, what do I need to accept? Number 5, what do I need to celebrate? Accepting good. My house is cool. Air conditioning has been installed successfully. When the technician arrived early this morning, it took him all of 5 minutes to locate the glitch. An error in the wiring easily fixed. Eager to be on his way on his next job, he gave me a very brief tutorial on how to run the system. I listened carefully, trying not to be overwhelmed. I'm spooked by all things technical, and the air conditioning smacked me of difficulty. True, I would be cool, but would I be too cool? How precisely to adjust the temperature? My grasp of gadgetry was minimal. My little dog stretched out in bliss in the newly cool living room. I tried stretching out myself. Silvery clouds descend from the mountains. It is twilight. Evening is upon us. In the west, the setting sun streaks the sky with multicolored light. In the east, the moon is rising. My living room is cool and dim. I flick on the lights. Little Lily pads to my side. "Up, girl," I urge her, and after a moment's hesitation, she leaps to the love seat, settling in by my side. We are a cozy duo. Nick came to work with me this afternoon. Stepping inside from the sweltering heat, he exclaimed, "Ah, this is refreshing." The newly installed air conditioning was doing its job. "Do you like it?" Nick asked. "Yes, I'm getting pretty used to it," I answered. Now, with Lily by my side, I found myself relishing the cool. My hair's no longer damp with sweat. My clothes no longer cling to my body. Accustomed to discomfort, I find the comfort of the cool startling. I have joined the modern age. My hand moving across the page is cool. For that matter, the page itself is cool. Moment by moment, I find myself at ease. When my phone shrills, I hesitate to answer it. I am so enjoying the calm. But I do answer the phone, and the caller is Jennifer, herself enjoying air conditioning in hot and humid South Florida. She's like Nick, anxious that I like my new cool. Are they all done? Jennifer asks. It took them forever. Do you like it? You must. You were suffering so from the heat. I think I like it, I tell her, but it takes some getting used to. Yes, but do you like it? She demands to know. Lily likes it, I tell her. I think of my little dog stretched out on the love seat, stretched out to the cool tiles. I'll bet she does, Jennifer replies. After all, I joke, she wears a fur coat. Satisfied that I am modern and comfortable, Jennifer rings off. Immediately, the phone shrills again. This time, my caller's my friend Scotty. I fill her in on the drama at my house. The new cool. Benjamin Franklin says, "He that can have patience can have what he will." It's a day later, an eventful day, busy. I walked on the treadmill, worked out with my trainer, walked little Lily, worked on belated correspondence, did a 45-minute podcast on which I read 4 of my poems, and it's evening now, a full moon night, but the moon is blocked by rain clouds hovering over the mountains. I'm curled on my love seat. Lily is curled beside me. One more time, heavy raindrops pelt the windows, although this time there is neither thunder nor lightning. The raindrops ping, but that is all. My day was a day of nerves and adrenaline. My physical energy outstripped my spiritual energy. I'm nervous. I told both Scotty and Jennifer, pray for me. Both friends said that they would gladly pray, and so I engaged the podcast feeling bolstered. The host was a young poet, and she made me and my poetry feel welcome. I selected 4 poems from my album, This Earth. She received them gleefully. Please read more, she said after the first poem. I read 3 more. A treat, she pronounced them. Little did she know that her treat was a treat for me. I enjoyed bringing out my poet, exhibiting the artist behind the artist's way. Reading my poetry to an acknowledged poet took nerve or courage. After all, she made her life as a poet. I made poetry of my life, and yet, due to her generosity, we met as peers, 2 poets writing. She shared that her audience, both international and national, had just completed The Artist's Way. I shared from my creativity toolkit tools I thought particularly relevant to writers. The time of the podcast flew by, and we parted as newly found friends. Thank you, Scotty, I found now to say. It went well. But did you have fun? She asks. Yes, actually, I did. I shared some of my poetry. Aha, that must have been fun. It was. I felt seen as an artist. Well, you are an artist. Thank you. It was fun to be out. Well, my dear friend, I'm glad it went well. I had the incense burning. Scotty chuckles, happy with her answered prayer. We end our call. Next, I telephone Jennifer. She answers my call with a question. Hello, sweetheart. How did it go? Well, I told her. Very well. That's the power of prayer, she replies. When I have an audition, I'll ask God to work through me. Watching the tape later, I'll see something special in my performance. That's God, I will say. I never would have thought of that. My performance was God's. I read 4 poems, I report. The inspiration to do that came from God, Jennifer says with certainty. You've never done that before, have you? No. Then it was God. When I have an audition or a job, I say, God, you do it. I might screw it up. I didn't screw it up. Then you need to say, thank you, God. I tell Jennifer I am filled with gratitude. Tell God, she scolds me. And so, getting off our call, I pray. Thank you, God, for giving me courage. Is it my imagination that I hear? You're welcome. Masashi Kishimoto says, there's no advantage to hurrying through life. Juanita Nava comes to my house every Monday afternoon. For 3 hours, she scrubs and vacuums and dusts. She's a whirlwind of energy. She leaves my house spotless, sparkling. Her mood is unfailingly gay and sweet-tempered. Her presence in the house brings both order and joy. She's a hard worker and a festive one. In her evening hours, she teaches dance. Why is she always so happy, I wonder? This afternoon, I asked. I pray all the time, Juanita answered me. I pray in the morning, at night, before bed, and all throughout the day. When I'm driving job to job, I pray. I don't pray formal prayers. I pray as I talk. It's a casual conversation, talking to God. Juanita is petite with a dancer's compact build. She is lean and muscular, fit and energetic. Her prayer life is the key to her energy and stamina. She told me that. I have a connection, she told me, pausing in her work to focus on my question. She didn't find it intrusive. Rather, she was delighted to share her source of cheer and guidance. Regular, daily prayer. I grew up praying, she told me next. I taught my own children to pray and believe. I thought to myself that Juanita's children are, like their mother, beacons of good cheer. Her 2 teenaged boys are happy-go-lucky and well-mannered. They are, again, like their mother, hardworking and enjoyable. I'm glad you asked me your question, Juanita said now. You pray, don't you? I do, I answered. Juanita prayed for guidance to do the next right thing. She cleaned my house, moving swiftly and easily, task to task to task, prayer to prayer to prayer. Sometimes, she told me, I wake up in the middle of the night and I pray then, and then I fall back asleep. I wake up in the morning and I pray again. By the time Juanita arrives at my house mid-afternoon, she's already put in a full day's prayers. Her guidance leads her in her work. Every week, she finds something new to tackle. This week, she cleared spider webs from an outside window. Just how she managed it, I don't know. I don't know that Lily shadowed her as she worked, attracted, doubtless, by her good cheer and the fact that she has 3 dogs at home and is a self-declared dog lover. You need trash bags, laundry detergent, dish detergent, and coffee filters, Juanita declared to me at her work ends. I'll bring them to you next week. Grateful for her help, I found myself praying a prayer of gratitude. Thank you, God, for bringing me Juanita. She left for the day with a sweet goodbye. Until next Monday, Julia. Until then, Juanita, thank you. Write for guidance. Fill in the following. Number 1. An area in my life where I accept good is. Number 2. I could accept more good in my life by. And number 3. My guidance led me to do good when. Vernon Howard says, let things flow naturally forward in whatever way they like. The calm of guidance. The sky is lit apricot and silver. The colors contrast but complement each other. The setting sun donates the apricot. The encroaching evening brings on the silver. My living room is cool and dim once again. Once again, I flick on the lights and settle into write. I've had a day of guidance, hunches, intuitions, answered prayers. Walking Lily, I was struck anew by the beauty all around me. Juniper trees filled with songbirds, mountain vistas with towering heights, thunderheads looming steep and majestic, a cooling wind gracing all. I walked with Nick. We matched strides with Lily, trotting ahead the length of her leash. You're happy, Nick observed. I had a good day so far, I told him. You're grounded, he remarked, calm, at ease. Thank you, I answered, adding, walking with you and Lily helps. Lily skidded to a halt. She tiptoed forward to where a tiny songbird lay on the ground. Here, Lily, I coaxed her, tugging at her leash. Poor little bird, Nick crooned. The tiny bird was blue and gold, perhaps a finch. It might have flown into a car, knocking its fragile life from its body. Poor little bird, Nick repeated. This way, girl, I chided Lily. Reluctantly, Lily abandoned her treasure. The sight of the little bird saddened me. I once kept a pair of lovebirds, colored like the tiny finch. My house is a veritable gallery of Audubon prints. Like my father, a birder, I'm fond of winged things. What'd you do about the podcast you were uncomfortable with? Nick asked me. I turned it down, I told him. It was too crazy. A 5-minute segment for 5 hot tips from the creativity expert. It smacked of sound bites to me. It just wasn't comfortable. As long as you're happy, I think you need to trust your intuition. Well, I ran it by guidance and got told I was correct to cancel. And so you trusted your guidance? Yes, it has quite the track record. Lily pulled to the side of the road sniffing. She was on a trail of something. Another dog, a raccoon, a lizard, a deer. This way, girl, I coaxed, tugging at her leash to show I meant business. Lily, I mean it, I scolded her. She relinquished her hunt. Approaching our gate, she suddenly plunged ahead. A lizard! A lizard! Lily was quick, but the lizard was quicker. It scooted under a rock under a cactus. Lily was foiled. We descended the steps to the garden. Last night it had hosted a cottontail. Now there was none to be seen. It's going to be a lovely evening, Nick mused. The cool breeze stirred my birch trees. Pima Chodron says, "You are the sky. Everything else, it's just the weather." Yes, I agreed, thinking of my friend Jennifer under a hurricane watch in South Florida. Slipping into our newly cool house, I dashed to answer a ringing phone. It was Jennifer. "It passed us by," she exclaimed breathlessly. "It's been downgraded to a tropical storm. I just wanted you to know we're safe. We may be in for a couple of days of torrential rains, but that's all." I thanked Jennifer for reporting in. Nick unsnapped Lily's leash and hung it on the coat rack. "Until tomorrow?" he asked. "Until tomorrow," I answered. I walked him to the door, opening it out into the courtyard. "Have a peaceful and cool evening," Nick wished me. "Thank you, Nick. I will." Lao Tzu says, "Forcing a project to completion, you ruin what was almost right." Thunderheads billow over the mountains. Closer in, the sky is blue. The pinyon tree stirs in the wind. Weather is on the way. I sit quietly seeking guidance. I have prayed for me and my beloveds. The aftermath of prayer is calm. In the calm comes guidance. "Call Scotty," I hear. My friend Scotty sits quietly every day at dawn. She reads, she prays, she chants, and then she simply sits, burning sticks of incense, sending her intentions to the heavens. Her two small dogs, Jackson and Moxie, know how to sit quietly, joining her in meditation. Theirs is a peaceful household. I know that later in the day when I call her and ask her how she is, her reply will be, "Julia, I'm excellent." Her steady equilibrium is the fruit of her quiet time. Guided daily by her inner compass, she moves slowly through her days. She is sure-footed in her interaction. Her luck is steady, a direct result of guidance. "I'm led," Scotty says simply. She is led and she obediently follows. Her faith is strong and her actions are as well. When she is guided, she listens. Listening, she intuits a path. She takes that path one step at a time. In the evening, she sits quiet a second time, reviewing her day, asking further for guidance if any. Scotty's calm assurance draws things to scale. I picture her in her calm abode, quietly lighting a stick of incense. "My house faces east," she explained to me once. "It's dark when I get up, but when the sun rises as I sit. It's an auspicious time." Lighting her incense, sitting calm, Scotty greets the day. Each day is blessed by her quiet time. Each day unfolds as she asks, with joy and ease. Seeking ease and joy, I call Scotty. Her house is down the mountain from my house, and with the change in altitude, our weather offer differs. Just now, the sky is at my altitude is spitting rain. At Scotty's altitude, there's rain mixed with hail. She croons to her dogs as I do to mine. We want them to feel safe, but at both altitudes, there is thunder and lightning, scary for dogs. Lily retreats to a hiding place, the corner of my coat rack. Scotty's two dogs hover near her side. "I'm going to put the boys to bed," Scotty tells me. "Lily's hiding," I volunteer. "I've got the jitters too, although the storm up here isn't much of a storm." "The boys are nervous, so let me call you later," Scotty asks. We hung up the phone. A half hour passes uneventfully. The storm is over. Scotty rings me again. "I've been thinking," she says. "Have you written guidance?" "I'm thinking it would comfort you. You have such a strong connection. What about writing to your two deceased friends, Jane and Alberta? I think it would comfort you to hear from them, to have a nice chat. I think you need to realize that your guidance has your back, supporting you at every turn." Scotty pauses for breath, then she continues. "Your guidance is strong and accurate. Go to your guidance for reassurance." Scotty's voice is firm. She knows what I should do. Ernest Holmes says, "I live in the faith that there is a presence and power greater than I am that nurtures and supports me in ways I could not even imagine. I know that this presence is all-knowing and all-power and is always right where I am." "I'll try it," I tell her. Once again, we hang up the phone. I settle it on the love seat, taking pen to page. "Can I hear from Jane?" I ask. I hear, "Julia, I'm at your side. You have no need to fear. The higher power provides for you, and you will be well cared for. You always have a choice, faith or fear. You can choose faith, knowing that you are always cared for. Trust. Jane speaks as she spoke in life. Her voice and message are familiar and comforting. I ask next, can I hear from Alberta? Julia, you are a champion. I give you grace and stamina. You are on track and doing well. It's good to hear from you. Scotty was right. Guidance feels reassuring. While I wrote, the storm clouds passed. The moon has risen over the mountains, and a clear evening prevails. Lily creeps from her hiding place and sits sentinel on the deck. All is calm. Raquel Cepeda says, support and encouragement are found in the most unlikely places. Write for guidance. Our guidance is calming. As we habitually write for guidance, our decisions are made with more ease, and we move through the world with more calm. Fill in the following. Number 1. My guidance calmed me when... Number 2. A decision I made based on guidance was... Number 3. I saw my guidance as a source of steadiness in my life when... Now, choose a person who is deceased, whose guidance you find calming. Can you reach out to them on the page and listen for their response? The support of connection. I spent yesterday evening with John and Chris Koliski, a happily married couple. Chris made dinner for the 3 of us, seated at opposite ends of a long plank table. John poured 3 goblets of iced tea, peach or plain. The delicious main course was chicken pad thai, a savory dish liberally sprinkled with red chili pepper. Do you like green chilies? Chris the chef asked me. I do. Well, our garden has quite a batch coming along, and we'll give you some. That would be fantastic, I said eagerly. And do you like tomatoes? John asked. We have a bumper crop. Vegetables, delicious vegetables, anchored one end of the Koliski garden. Flowers, brilliant and abundant, anchored the other. So how the cosmos are coming. Oh, see how the cosmos are coming? Chris exclaimed. I spend an hour or 2 in the garden every morning. His diligence showed as blossoms tumbled over blossoms, seeking, by their nature, sun or shade. He cooks for an army, John announced fondly. I'm not an army. Towering well over 6 feet, Chris smiled down at his diminutive spouse. John is a full foot shorter than his mate. Seconds? Chris asked, ladling himself a generous portion. John and I demurred. 1 serving was plenty. We have little light dessert, mango or raspberry sorbet, John offered. I'll take raspberry, I said. Raspberry for me too, Chris volunteered again, spearing a last morsel of chicken. Mango for me, John chimed as he scooped the sorbet into tiny fluted bowls. From the master bedroom came a plaintive meow. It was the voice of Simon, their youngest cat, begging to be allowed to mingle. He's very social, Chris explained. And you are our first guest since lockdown. He's wondering, who's that lady? Who indeed? Anais Nin says, each friend represents a world in us, a world possibly not born until they arrive. And it is only by this meeting that a new world is born. John, Chris, and I share a spiritual path. I have pursued it for decades. They are in their early years, but we are all well agreed on the necessity of guidance. We each have a favorite prayer, but one, the serenity prayer, is used by us all. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Chris prays by gardening, reveling in the out of doors. John prays by keeping an immaculate house, 100-year-old adobe filled with antiques. I pray, as we both know, by writing. We are all agreed on the value of prayer. Let me give you some tomatoes, John offered as our quiet evening wore down, and so he gave me a bag of tomatoes while Chris promised more than once that there would soon be green chilies. Thank you, you two. I bade them good night. Driving home as the sun was setting, I spotted a doe, a beautiful, graceful animal trotting along the roadside, a perfect ending to a perfect evening. George Herbert says, "The best mirror is an old friend." A week has passed, an eventful week. My newly installed air conditioning broke, and I spent several nights sleeping at the roar of a fan. Not really cool, but not unbearably hot. The unbearable heat came during the day, and I waited days for the air conditioners to be fixed. At first, predictably, the technicians blamed me for the breakdown. I had set the controls wrong. They told me. They set them right, and then just as they were leaving, the unit stopped again. This was a challenge. They set about testing the system, and climbing to the roof, they discovered 4 separate leaks to their chagrin. Working all day, nearly 8 full hours, they repaired the leaks and set up the system again. One of the technicians, a tall, lanky man named Josh, took me aside. "You didn't do anything wrong," he assured me. "The leaks were the result of hurried work by the installation crew." So I breathed a long sigh of relief. "The system should work perfectly now," he continued, "and you know how to find me if you have any trouble." Josh left, and the system continued to function. I turned my attention to another problem. Mice. I found a dead mouse on my kitchen floor, and then I found another. Anthony, my wizardly handyman, explained. "They're eating the poison I set out for them," he reported. "That's why you're finding them in the middle of the floor. Leave on the kitchen lights and close the dog door. Put the dog food in the refrigerator overnight." "Anthony," I said, "would you be insulted if I hired an exterminator? Could you find me one?" "I'll get on it," Anthony answered. "My feelings are not hurt." Relieved but jittery. Mice. Ugh. I left the lights blazing in the kitchen and called Lily inside so I could close the dog door after her. She was used to eating in the night, so I apologized as I put her food in the refrigerator. Lily is bright, but my antics baffled her. All this over mice? Anthony called me early the next morning. "I found an exterminator for you. Here's his name and number. He's expecting your call." Eager, I took down the name and number. I called, and a firm and friendly voice answered. "This is Julia Cameron," I said. "Anthony called you about me?" "Yes, he did. He's filled me in on all he's tried. What if I come by this afternoon? We'll walk the property." And so, although the prospect of walking the property looking for mice frightened me, I set a time. That done, I called Nick and asked if he would have a walk of the property for me. Asked if he could walk the property for me. He said he could. Next up, I had a call from Juanita. She too said she would talk to the exterminator, Gustavo. At 5:15, the designated hour, Gustavo, Nick, and Juanita rendezvoused. They walked the property, then came indoors, where Gustavo promptly found 4 entryways for the mice: behind the stove, under the sink, under the bathroom sink, and behind the washing machine. Juanita corroborated that these were trouble spots. Gustavo advised me, as Anthony had, to leave lights blazing and the dog door shut, the food put away in the refrigerator. He'd be back on Monday, armed with supplies and ready to mouse-safe the premises. He named a modest price. "But pay me after I've done the work." I thanked Gustavo, thanked Juanita, thanked Nick, and after they left, I called to thank Anthony. "He is efficient and ethical. Thank you," I told him. "Yes," Anthony said, "he's a good guy." "You're a good guy," I told him. "Thank you." Maya Angelou says, "A friend may be waiting behind a stranger's face." Right for guidance. We have practiced the art of finding support through our guidance. Now it's time to actively connect with those around you. Is there an area in which you need human support? Is there a friend you can reach out to just for connection? Ask your guidance what human connection or support would best serve you at this time. Can you make a plan to connect? Setting boundaries. With my house in order, I could finally turn my attention back to the page. I found clarity had been given to me in my week's absence. A troublesome interview I'd conducted for this book suddenly seemed exactly that, troublesome. Rather than trying to find one more time to fix it, I decided on a clearer, more radical move. The interview should be cut. Taking pen in hand, I found the offending pages and I boldly X'd them out. Now my book was mine once again. The air conditioning, the mice, and the book were all problems solved. My friend Scotty called. I told her one of my decisions to cut the interview. "Good for you," she affirmed. "He's an arrogant, pretentious, self-serving man. You and your book deserved better." Validated by Scotty, relieved of pests of all types, I settled into the cool of my living room. I asked for guidance and was promptly told, You're correct to cut him from the book. He's arrogant and wants more credit than he's due. I thought of mailing him a dead mouse. It's nearly time for my daily check-in with Jeanette. Like Scotty, she's glad that I cut the offending interview. I read her the humorous poem I wrote to give me the courage of my evictions. It ends. And so at last his tail is cut. There is no place for such a nut. That's excellent, she exclaims, and her chuckle warms the wire. I had a hard time until I wrote the poem, I tell her, and now I have a poem about my air conditioning too. They promised cool and calm and quiet. Instead, their work is bad. Just try it. With 2 little poems to my credit, I explain, if I can be funny, I get my power back. Yes, Jeanette says, I can see that. I read her the entry about mailing a dead mouse. She laughs again. I feel myself bonding with her more deeply. Our shared laughter lingers in the air. You like the little poems? Oh yes, and I do think that humor gives power back. Maybe now you'll be able to write freely. I hope so. I've had a full week of pests and toxins. What does your guidance say? I recite, little one, you're doing well. Your house has been a living hell. H. Raven Rose says, be in your own skin as an act of self-loving. William Blake says, in the universe there are things that are known and things that are unknown, and in between them there are doors. True, Jeanette crows. I detect a breakthrough. And so I ask her, you trust my guidance, don't you? Oh, absolutely, she replies. What did it tell you tonight? I page back to the evening's guidance. I read it aloud. We are on track and sharp. You are going to write well, and we are proud of you. Can you let that soak in? Jeanette asks. Not yet, I tell her. But already a little poem is forming. This little poem goes out to my mice. I'd kill you dead, but not once, but twice. And a moment later, I have another ditty. This little poem is thanks to my friends. A happy ending is how this tale ends. I think of Scotty and Jeanette, both tickled by my naughtiness. I think of Jennifer and Emma, both rooting for me during my block. Humor unlocks the lock. I rhyme again. And then, this little house deserves a poem. Rhyming makes a house a home. I turn one more time to my guidance. I read, there is no error in your path. I add, the many troubles caused your wrath. Can you accept your anger? Jeanette asks. Now that I've written it out, I shout. And so this entry draws to a close. I've vented anger, heaven knows. Write for guidance. I have long believed in the power of writing silly poems to help right my energies. Fill in the following. Number 1. A person who has been bothering me is... Number 2. I wish I could. Number 3. My guidance suggests. Now write a silly poem at the person or situation. Does it shift your mood and draw your energies back into yourself? Jessica Moore says, we can think of anger as a sentry stalking the edge of our boundaries and standing ready to defend them.